Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second episode now of Coronavirus TV. Had a slight tweak in the name for kind of obvious reasons. My name is Daniel Chancellor. I work for Pharma Intelligence. Full disclosure, you can probably hear it in my voice anyway, but I do have a cold right now. I am in a self-isolating household. Thankfully, it's nothing more than a cold as far as we're aware, but obviously you have to take precautions. Part of those precautions are that I've had a very restful weekend. Tried to have a restful weekend, minimal effort. That said, there is something that happened over the weekend that really annoyed me. And so I'm a member of Twitter. You can follow me if you like. Shameless plug, but my handle is @DanPharma. So I follow various things relating to the pharmaceutical industry, drug development, etc., etc. And Twitter kind of takes who you follow, the things you search for, and then it will send you emails, basically like a curated list of the most interesting things that are going on based on your kind of habits. And it decided in its infinite wisdom that the most important thing that happened in Twitter was a tweet by President Donald J. Trump proclaiming in capital letters, very loudly, very brashly, very confidently, that hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin is a game changer, has the potential to be the biggest game changer in the history of medicine, and we need to be getting this to as many patients as possible. This is infuriating because it's so misleading. What he's referring to is a study conducted in France, whereby some patients received this combination and had pretty quick resolution of their COVID-19. It was not a randomized trial. There was a control arm in that certain patients refused treatment, and so I guess they can track how well they performed relative to those that did receive treatment. But it was a very small number of patients that received it. And again, the information is just anecdotal. It's far too little to be informing global treatment policies about treatment of COVID-19 with antiviral drugs. Yet that is what an endorsement from the President of the United States has the potential to do. So it's very, very damaging. It's damaging because countries may be rushing to stock this medicine prematurely. The chances are the medicine probably will do more good than harm, but it also has potential to do harm, not just in patients that there might be side effects, etc., but also harm in terms of the fact that it slows us getting to the definitive answer of what is the best antiviral drug that we should be using. The more and more patients that get shuffled onto receiving, a combination or this anti-malaria drug, the fewer patients there are for clinical trials of real antiviral drugs that have been designed specifically against COVID-19. We really, really need well-designed, controlled clinical trials, and we need supply of patients that are willing to enter into these clinical trials. So the more and more patients that we treat with unproven medicines in a kind of a compassionate use scenario, we're losing their data. We can't use that data. We can't compare it against controls. We can't work out what the best drug is. So there is the real harm that these kind of proclamations slow down R&D. They slow down the clinical trial process, and it's irresponsible. Europe and the States have had quite a decent amount of time to prepare for the number of patients that we're currently seeing and setting up these clinical trials. So it's kind of disappointing that there are still relatively few publicly disclosed clinical trials, whether that be of remdesivir, whether that be of anti-malarial drugs, anti-flu drugs, etc. And the reality is we're now right in the midst of this pandemic, and the immediate priority is to treat as many patients as possible. You almost don't have the luxury of choice. If you have a supply of this anti-malaria drug to hand and a patient that desperately needs it, it's unethical not to give them this drug. But ideally, you would shuffle them into clinical trials. It may well fall back onto countries like China and some of its Asian neighbours that had this outbreak relatively early and now are in the recovery stages to do the clinical research. They are still tracking new patients. They're probably imported patients that have travelled there, but with smaller patient numbers, perhaps you're better able to set up the infrastructure and meet the demand for running clinical trials and testing drugs in a well-controlled manner. I didn't intend to be talking about antivirals again, but I do think it is very important that we are testing in the right way. And yeah, I'm sure there's so many other topics we're going to be moving on to. Please do continue to tune in, and we'll explore them together. Thank you very much for now, and goodbye.